people who are listening in and might not know you, like where you're currently at on the scenic route of your life and business, what's currently on your mind?
Currently, I have just done a massive personal development trip where I eliminated chaos out my life.
Oh,
I
tell me more.
can you freaking handle? We recently went away. I came back. My passageway was flooding with water. And I was telling my business partner, and she's like, dude, the fuck, every single time you go away, like you get back to the situation. Like, what is it with you and chaos? And I was like, it's fine, we can manage it. And she was like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I was like, oh no. It was. And, my integrity and my soul, like, kind of take responsibility very easily. And that's one of the things that I teach. And so at that point, I couldn't
Mm,
defend it because it hit a nerve that I
mm,
had been so accustomed to living within that nerve and within that space where chaos is my normal. Because when everything is chaotic around me, that's when I perform my best. That's when I
yeah.
multitask my best. That's when I problem solve my best. And so I love that state of chaos. And then she was like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have
That's always my sentiment too. When people tell me something, I'm like, they're right, but oh nah, no.
so that's been the thing. So I've just literally got out of like a 3-4 week personal development journey where having a look at where chaos comes from. Is it
Mm,
linear? Is it generational? Is it, past lives? Is it within my soul DNA? Is it is it something I'm attracted to? Is it something I'm addicted to? Is it something that I like? Where the hell is this coming from? And I'm
mm-hmm.
through the other side. I was saying it's the most surreal experience, almost a bit like the Matrix. I'm still trying to figure out like where the hell that came in from and what the hell happened. But it was just the most incredibly freeing experience to realize that
I love
we
this.
go through life. It doesn't matter where you are in your personal development journey. I was on a podcast last night and I was explaining that we assume that if you are a therapist that you've got your stuff together.
Mm.
Don't. Like I'm not even afraid to say that. Like I don't have all my ducks in a row. Like they're everywhere, and that as long as they're all in the same pond, I'm good with that. But they like,
Yes, yes, absolutely. As long as they're still all seeing each other, it's fine.
yeah, and as long as we can kind of see them all, we're all good. But
Yeah.
it was just the realization, where somebody said to me, Lauren, everything's so perfect in your life, and I stopped them and said, no,
Mm,
no one. Pick a celebrity, message that celebrity, and find out what's wrong with them.
mm.
Everybody is going through stuff. The difference is some people just choose to take responsibility for that stuff and work through it so that they can help others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean it's easy to be tempted to think that way, right? Because I mean, social media, hello, right? Like so
Yeah.
many of us are trained like, oh, we cannot show like there I feel there's quite a cultural agreement on what kind of feelings I can show and what
Yeah.
kind of feelings I cannot. And there
Yeah.
is like, of course, as well, like a gender perspective to that. I mean, men can show that they're angry, women cannot.
Yeah.
It, it's just like, oh no, and you're already too much. You're hysterical. You're whatever, right? And then you get put on these labels of like how people think you are, and it just gets a whole lot of life out of there.
It does. That's the thing. And I think I really realized that within my chaotic journey, like what is chaos? So one of the things was that I had to have a conversation about boundaries and that you
Mm,
overstepped my boundary. And I had put in energies like to stop me from dealing with any chaos. Do you know, I realized that having the conversation is chaos.
oh,
I know. My desire to problem solve that and to put in my boundary was going to be more chaotic than just walking away. And I was like, oh, wow, like I communicate
Yeah.
extremely effectively and I'm able to put in boundaries very effectively. And I'm brilliant at what I do. But for me, I was just like, wow, that's an entirely different energy that because
Mm.
within my program itself, and I think within the Soul DNA program itself, I never really realized that this is where it would get me to the point where I would just shed layer after layer after layer after layer. And there's just as though, just the same way there's infinite past lives, there's infinite generational stuff, there's infinite layers to personal development. And just as you think you've nailed one, in comes another one, and in comes another one.
So it's an entirely different thing to see the beauty in that.
Yeah.
And not get kind of like, I don't know, sometimes I feel people have almost like I mean, we're also in this like capitalistic hustle culture that we're even see healing or personal development as like a checklist, a step, then step next, step 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. And if we cannot cross it off, then we failed or something. I don't know. Right. And it's just not working like that. It's
because that in itself created chaos. You know, like that was where you've got these to-do lists, and I'm a very driven person, I'm a very goal-orientated person, but I realized that it's okay that some days I don't work. It's okay that some days, today I cleaned out my kids' bedroom cupboards because it's just been a day. And it wasn't that anything has happened, it's just on my personal development, I just needed downtime. And so I was like, I want to remove more chaos out of my life. Show me where there's chaos. And I was like, actually, the kids' cupboards needed to be cleaned. So let's just like do that. And everyone's feeling so much better about it. And I was like, oh, that's not even on the list, but that's probably the biggest impact of all, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting, right? Like when you're kind of like you're making a list of like, okay, how to reduce chaos. And then you like consciously think about it. But when you intuitively ask yourself, okay, where is chaos to be? Where's chaos? Where is like something not in alignment or out of whack? It might show you something different.
So different. So different. And I mean, my kids purged. It was insane. They've like kept every piece of paper since they were born. And today they were both like, because it's in alignment, right? Today they were both like, Mommy, we just decided today that we just need to get rid of it all. And some stuff we want to keep, some stuff we don't. And I mean, there's piles everywhere at the moment, and that's okay. Like we're just gonna bin bag it all up and put it all, you know, to be collected, and that's fine. But it's when I think sometimes we get so focused on our own lists that we don't, like you say, make those soul-based decisions on our intention can be to declutter and to remove chaos. But where that takes should be a soul-based, you know, answer on this is where we need to go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it's same as in business, right? You can have the strategy and like all the strategic pieces and bits, but you kind of have to decide what feels good for you and when it does feel good to you. Otherwise, the strategic pieces are piece of paper.
It is, and it just won't work. That's the thing is, and I think sometimes I wrote down something. Let me read it to you. I wrote down something please. Really.
Give us a download.
This is an incredible download, actually. My downloads always come when I write, and so this for me was pretty profound. I'm just trying to find it. It was insane. When we talk about responsibility and link it to an emotion, we suddenly find ourselves experiencing raw emotions, ones that trigger us to cast blame, make excuses, and run from hard choices. we assume responsibility is an outward act that will result in an inward peace. However, it is when responsibility ignites an inward trigger or an anger that we should pay attention. When we pay attention, our external actions and the rage behind them will soon ensure that we face the inner struggle of turning to ourselves to accept our role and responsibilities of change within. It was like I was having a chat with a friend about responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And as we were talking, it was the whole, but that's so and so's responsibility, and but they behaved like that, and oh, but that person made me feel
Mm-hmm.
like that. And I said, where are you taking responsibility?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I have nothing to take responsibility for. And I said, the fact that it's caused a trigger within you is telling me that it does.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what that is, but the minute I just ended it with, the minute you feel you want to blame, stop. Like, don't even find out who you're blaming. Just stop.
Mm-hmm.
Just stop. And just take responsibility within that. That is your soul's way of, or your human way, actually, or it's your soul's way of communicating, take responsibility. It's your human way of saying, blame someone else.
Mm. And like, how often do we do that? Like, even unconsciously, or like, it's
Yeah.
the easy way out, right? Like, oh, this and this is like that, and it's always been like this, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's really, how do we, so I think there are two really interesting topics there. Like, one, really talking about more of the concept of responsibility and like really crass responsibility, right? Not just like, oh yeah, I'm accountable, but really like going all the way, and how we navigate that. And also you said something interesting about like anger, right? That this is often like a telltale sign or like a telltale emotion of, ooh, this is something where we can look at and we can look deeper and just seeing like, why do we feel anger?
Mm-hmm.
So how do we go about being crass responsible for our feelings and then ultimately our actions? Like, how do we start to entangle that and how to approach that?
So we were just discussing that this morning about the consequences of doing soul DNA.
Mm.
There's the consequences of doing the program.
Mm-hmm.
We birthed the program, we've lived the program, we're walking testimony of the program, as are hundreds of others. However, the consequences of it, that was our conversation within ourselves. If we were the first pioneers of this and we wrote this program, if the consequences of it are that we physically no longer have the ability to deflect responsibility.
Mm. Yeah.
Our intention in creating the program is to make people more responsible for their lives. I don't think we ever truly imagined that we would get to the point where you were left with no choice but to take responsibility for every single thing. So within the Soul DNA program, I'm going to mix the two because they interlink. Within the Soul DNA program, anger is within the ugly column. It's the ugly emotion, or certainly the emotion we define as ugly, but has the most powerful role, because the ugly column has the most powerful role because it is showing us that has been triggered for a reason, that there has been a soul violation somewhere along the line. So within each one of our emotions, there are 3 columns within soul DNA: the good, the bad, the ugly. The good is all the typical stuff that you know. I'm outgoing, I'm shy, I'm, these kinds of things. The bad are the minor little things like intolerance, impatience.
Okay, yeah, yeah. What do you say when asking you what, like, in job interviews and things? You're like, oh, I'm impatient.
Well, so this was the thing, right? So within birthing this program, I realized that my impatience is actually my driving force because I'm a naturally lazy person. And so if I am lazy and I allow myself the space to be lazy. However, my impatience is within a spiritual world, the very thing that gets me answers very quickly. I need to help this person now, and it's as simple as that. So I don't have the patience to be waiting for an answer back. I want it now. And that energy is what brings it now. My impatience
okay, yeah, understand what you mean, the striver.
Yeah. And so I redefine certain things the same way we take a people pleaser. We all are like, oh, I'm a people pleaser, I nail it. And I'm like, and how does your soul feel about that?
I'm absolutely not.
But that's the thing, is like, well, how many times have you violated your soul in people pleasing? So if we take people pleasing or perfectionist, for a perfectionist, another one that's huge.
Yeah.
And we ignore the triggers of the perfectionist or the people pleaser. We ignore them again and again and again. That is called a soul violation. We then move to intolerance, into the bad. From the intolerance, it starts getting stronger and stronger and stronger, or we jump into the ugly where anger rears its head. We then, the minute we get angry about something, we start laying blame at everybody else. Well, I've committed to too many things because they asked me this, perfection, I can't achieve it. Or we look to social media, as we mentioned, and where does perfection come from? And so we always look externally to validate our reason behind the outburst, because that's responsibility, right? If we can identify it externally, we're then able to put in a boundary with it. It doesn't work like that. The fact that responsibility is, it has triggered something within me, and I need to take responsibility for what that trigger is. If my people pleaser is responsible, what do I need to do to fix that? It's not about everybody else. If my perfectionist is the trigger, what do I need to do to fix that? And so suddenly, if my chaos is constantly around me, and you just become super, super heightened in every single sense and emotion, because you have the activations within it leave you with no option. You cannot outrun yourself. That's basically what it is.
No. You can also not like put stuff under the carpet. It's not gonna work.
It's an impossibility. That's the thing. And so when I looked at my chaos, it was my normal, right? It was my normal. So I didn't even know it existed. It wasn't until somebody else pointed it out.
Yeah,
and
reflected back at you, like, oh, actually, Laurin, you're doing this.
I was like, do people, tons of people go through this amount of shit, and they're like, yeah, but doesn't mean you should do that.
Or like actively cultivated.
That's the thing. That's the thing. And I think when we talk about responsibility, we put personal development into that. We put therapy into that. We put exercise, diet,
everything down to recycling, right? Like
it is. I had a lady like chatting to me about her diet the other day and her meal planning, and I just said to her, like, have you just opened the fridge and asked your soul what it wants to eat for the day? No. So I was like, do you want to try that? Like, it's going to be so much easier. Like, have all the healthy stuff in the fridge, but ask your soul what it wants. Like, our bodies are just the vessel. And yet we've developed this entire personality around society and being human that we've actually excluded our soul altogether. Just start making soul-based decisions and start asking questions. What do you want to eat today? And it's easier to ask, what do you want to eat today? Like you're talking to your best friend, until it becomes so ingrained within you that you can say, what do I want to eat today?
Yeah, I think that's a good workaround to really see your soul as a separate being for the time being, right? Like just,
Yeah.
okay, third person speech, while you're kind of like adjusting to that, because it's quite a change. I mean, I call it intuitive eating, but I mean, it's basically same.
Yeah.
So that's my approach as well, as in business. But I mean, everyone has different areas in their life where this is easier or it seems impossible, right? Because of all of our conditioning. So, and I love the example that you brought with eating, because that's where almost every one of us has some shit around.
Yeah.
Like how, and I feel it's a more or less safe area to start, unless you have a serious eating disorder, then might not be the best place to start. But how do we go about this? Are we just really opening the fridge and asking our soul what it needs?
And I think so many people ask me, but I don't know what my soul sounds like. If you were to picture Jiminy Cricket, is it from Pinocchio? There was a little cricket that sat on the puppet's shoulder.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's Pinocchio. I think so.
Like,
Yeah.
it's your conscience. It is like, just picture right here, the first thing that pops into your mind. That, I can guarantee you, that will be the answer. But we've never been taught what like, we question intuition. And it's not until something goes right or wrong that we're like, oh, I knew it. Or I
Yeah,
felt
retrospectively, like,
exactly. And so now I'm saying, well, let's bring it all the way forward. And the easiest way, I've used this example so many times. If I was to say to you, hey, Jennifer, tea or coffee?
tea.
What if I didn't offer you tea? What if I said, hey, do you want some coffee?
Sure.
You have just sacrificed your soul.
Yeah, because
So
coffee would have been
the
fine enough.
rest,
Like,
well, the rest of the conversation you and I are going to be having, you're actually not paying attention. All you're doing is thinking, I fucking hate coffee. And I should have just asked for tea. What was wrong with me?
why
Why
was I
don't I
not standing up
actually,
for myself, even
and
in
it's
this
not
like
even
teeny
that. Why
thing?
don't I just put some tea bags in my bag and just say, hey, can you just boil me some water? And I'll just put my own tea bag in.
Which
Like,
is no
it's
effort
as
at all,
simple
right?
as
Like,
that.
yeah,
It's the same amount of effort. I've got to boil the water to make the coffee.
it's like you're not a burden to the person, to your host. It doesn't take
You're
all the
not at
space to
all.
carry 2 tea bags. Like, it's simple.
That,
Yeah.
start with that. And so the entire rest of our conversation, all you're thinking about, I wish I had have had tea. And that's your soul trying so desperately to reprogram your human state in, hey, there's an easier way for this. It's trying so hard to get you to validate that you've just betrayed yourself.
Yeah. To
I
kind of
said,
like gap that it realizes there is a dissonance, and it's kind of like, okay, we're trying to eradicate this dissonance. No.
absolutely. And so everything you look at, if my husband said, hey, I want pizza for dinner, I wouldn't mind like an Indian takeaway. It's like another road down. Can we pick up both?
Yeah.
Well, I suggested pizza. No, I understand that, but the Indian takeaway is right there as well. So I would prefer Indian food, and you can have pizza, and that way no one's sacrificing anything.
Yeah, because I'm caring. I also don't want you to sacrifice unless you're telling me. I didn't think of Indian. Indian sounds amazing.
Well, that's the thing. And if my husband's like, oh, don't worry, I'll give up pizza for Indian. Okay, love, you sacrifice your soul. That's completely like that. You do you. I'm not even stressing about it. And so when we look at this relationship with food, that's actually how I learned to communicate with my soul, because I realized that society's taught us to be polite. It's taught us to not ask. It's taught us all these things. And I was like, I did social experiments with it. I was like, hey, do you mind if I ask what coffee it is? I'm really fussy with my coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, it's instant. Do you mind if I just have some tea?
Mm-hmm.
It's not personal. I just I like a certain type of coffee. And if I
Mm-hmm.
can't get that certain type of coffee, I'd rather not have anything.
Fair.
I'd rather just have water.
Yeah.
And that's not saying anything about you as a person. If you have the insecurity and you take it on, be my guest. I just want to know what
Which
type of
happens
coffee.
a lot, I suppose. I mean, I'm sure things like, oh, Laurin, she's so complicated. She's so difficult. No?
That's fine.
No. I
That's
mean,
fine.
yeah, sure, it's fine. I mean, it's not your problem, it's theirs.
That's what I'm saying.
But
Like
that's kind of
I
like what makes
typically,
you, right? Like, I mean, and it goes back to our conditioning of like, oh, we don't want to be perceived as difficult or whatever, right? Audacious and those things. And sometimes it's like, why do
I'm
we
not
even?
actively trying to be an asshole about it.
Yeah, yeah,
I just
absolutely.
like that's not I don't go to a restaurant and actively think about how I can screw up their day. I qualified as
How
a
can I
chef.
make the waiter the most
Well,
miserable of ever?
I qualified as a chef. So I understand what it is in a kitchen to get that order.
Mm,
But at the same time, if there's genuinely nothing on the menu that I feel like eating, or there's an ingredient in there that I don't like,
mm-hmm.
hey, can you swap out? I have an egg allergy. Can you swap out eggs and just put extra bacon? Can you swap out eggs and just put extra mushrooms?
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing wrong with that. There's
No,
nothing wrong with
absolutely
that. And
not.
equally, I have to take responsibility and
Mm.
understand I'm a fussy eater. So
Mm-hmm.
I would rather delay ordering my food and I have a look at the plates coming out the kitchen. I feel nothing to go up to a table and be like, hey, what are you eating? I'm still undecided on the menu. I just wanted to see what it was
Mm-hmm.
that you were eating. And like, oh, that looks really amazing. Oh my God, that looks rank.
What was
I'm
it?
out.
Yeah, what dish is it?
Yeah, yeah. Like, there's nothing wrong with that because you're only ever going to do it once, right? I'm going to go
Mm,
back into the restaurant and be like, hey, I ordered this from you last time, but I asked you to hold off on this and you nailed it. Like,
mm,
you were amazing about the way you plated my food. Can you do that for me again?
mm.
They're not going to be like, oh my God, that woman's walked in, because my attitude is not that.
Mm.
My
Yeah,
attitude
like
is not that.
the vibe and the intention behind it is different, right? It's
Very.
not making it as impossible for everyone to be around you, work with you, whatever.
Yeah.
But really, like to some extent, standing your ground.
Well, it's just making that soul-based decision.
Mm,
Equally, why am I at that restaurant in the first place? So I
mm,
write about this within my container and I say, if I'm going to pay for food at a restaurant, I want it to be good food. I hate paying for crappy food.
fair.
So yeah. So
I
then
feel you.
if somebody says to me like, if they can't make decisions, like, I'm always amazed by the amount of people that can't make decisions. Where do you want to go? I'll name straight. Like, we can do here or here. And the only reason I'm able to give those two names is because I'm able to make an educated decision with my soul
Yeah,
and say, is it breakfast, lunch, or dinner that we're going?
yeah.
Well, this is my favorite place for breakfast. This is my favorite
Favorite
place for
place for
lunch. And this is my favorite place for dinner.
yeah.
And they've given me that option. And
So
so,
how do have so many people a hard time doing I'd say simple decisions, right? Because
yeah.
it's not gonna make or break anything. Like it's picking a restaurant, picking a movie, picking whatever, right? It's not why why do people have a hard time with that?
I just think that they're not taking responsibility for their lives.
Mm.
So we keep
Mm-hmm.
going back to responsibility.
Yeah.
Because if I was like, hey, Jennifer, do you want to go and watch the new Barbie movie? And you were like, absolutely not. Are you out of your mind? Hey, Jennifer, do you want to go watch a movie? Yeah, sure. What movie are we watching? I don't know. Let's go. Your soul is already dying.
Oh yeah.
It's
That
already
sounds
dying
it
because
just sounds
Laurin is
exhausting.
the
Like what kind of
girly
movie do you...
girl.
Yeah.
It is, but Lauren's the girly girl. I bet the amount of anxiety. Oh my God, I bet Lauren's going to go and watch the Barbie movie. I just don't know that I can deal with the Barbie movie. But if I ask her, I don't want to seem rude. So how the hell am I going to get out of this? Okay. I'll
Okay, my
speak up.
head is spinning just from that. Oh dear.
You
Yeah.
understand? Like,
I gladly come see the Barbie movie to you a second time.
no. I haven't even watched it the first time. I've been invited so many times and I'm like, I just can't wrap my head around it. It's a no. I didn't even play with Barbies as a kid. I don't need to be playing in a movie house.
Yeah. Get that?
That's like when we think about making decisions, I don't mind or you choose has to be genuine.
Mm-hmm.
Where you are going from the worst coffee in the world to the best coffee in the world and everything in between.
Mm-hmm.
And you're prepared to make that decision.
Mm.
And so when you talk about like making soul-based decisions with food, it's the worst plate of food or the best plate of food.
Mm-hmm.
You can have either one. It just needs a decision as to which one.
Yes. Let's circle back. I think there's something particularly interesting that was kind of like, let's drill down there. You said like whatever decision, like basically no one cares as long as it's like your genuine decision. And for it to be a genuine decision, we gotta have a level of understanding of ourselves and living fully in our truth to do that, to know actually what's genuine for us, right? Like how we have to live in a way that feels authentic and real. Real is silly, it's not the right word, but
it's a good word.
how can we start making genuine decisions, like, or not making them but knowing they're genuine decisions, like, and what kind of role plays our own authenticity in that?
I think for me, this was the very question that got me to write this program. Is my husband said to me, "Who are you? I don't know you anymore." And I was like, I had such a smart comeback, but I couldn't even say it. Because all I could say to him is, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a chef, I'm interior decor, I'm a counselor.
Like your roles.
They weren't who I was. And I was like, shit, I don't know. Like, I remember saying to him, I don't know. And so that was for me, is I went through labels. We spoke about labels. And I just started writing lists and lists and lists of labels, labels that everybody had called me, labels of situations that I had been in, labels that other people had put on me. I literally put them onto like post-it notes and I stuck them all over my body.
Ooh,
And
that's
I
very
was
visual. I love it.
yeah. And I like, if anybody's listening to this, do it. Literally do it. If you doubt what I'm saying, do this. Start putting them onto your body so that you can see if you identify with them or not. Because when you walk past a mirror and you're like, no, I could never identify with being aggressive. I'm not aggressive, I'm passionate. I could never identify with, I could never be an academic. Whilst my grades showed an A+, I never identified as academic. So, but there's stigmas that come with every single one of these things. I'm not a fussy person at all. I really am not fussy in the slightest. I'm particular. And so if I can't have something a certain way, I get to make a decision to say no, thank you. And so when I had all these labels all over me, I could take off the ones that didn't resonate and I'd be left with ones that did resonate. And that was kind of the foundation for the entire program. But for anybody going out there and understanding your authenticity, it's about just being able to say, what do I want? Like if you were to ask yourself that every single day, what do I want? Is that what I want? Every decision that is made, every decision made,
And you probably
was
have to start, if you're anything like me and you're going through this process, you probably have to start really, really, really small.
tiny,
Tiny, right? Like even tiny, like when you think of something now, go tinier. Go smaller, right? Like
it is though. And it's like the thing is though, is it's always, I guess society has also made personal development huge. And
yeah, it's a big industry.
and it's made transformation painful. The reality is though, is that the more we feed back into ourselves and the more loyal we become to ourselves, the more responsibility we take on within our own development, the less painful it becomes, because that becomes the addiction, because the results are insane. So if we go back to the tea or coffee, Jennifer, I have an entire cupboard full of teas, love. Do you want to choose your own tea? Or did you bring your own tea and you'd be like, actually, I'm really particular about my tea. Do you mind if I use my own tea bag? You and I have a very different outcome in our conversation. Very different. You've eliminated so many hurdles. You've eliminated so many obstacles. You've removed so much from your life just by being authentic. And that's what like I keep saying to people is authenticity is alchemy.
I love this. Yes.
When
I
we
agree.
are able to show up authentically in who we are, I'm able to show up in certain social situations and say, no, my opinion, I am being an asshole about it. I actually am not even prepared to hide that. I've taken away everyone else's power. No one can stand there and be like, Laurin was an asshole. I called myself that.
Yeah. It's reclaiming, it's reclaiming your power in that way.
Yeah.
I'm curious. As you said, like you started kind of like this whole process of the soul DNA when your husband asked you, like, Laurin, who are you? And you said you didn't know. So now, Laurin, who are you?
I have a note in my phone. Let me find it.
Yes.
I have a note.
Give me
in
another
my
note
phone.
download.
I wrote, can I tell you? I wrote
Yes.
this note in my phone.
If you
And I
want to
have
tell me,
saved it. It is. I have saved it. And it is the very thing that got me through. Can I tell you? So I wrote this note probably the same time he asked me that question, but I didn't understand who it was. I was yet to become this person.
Oh, interesting.
I, Laurin Mariani, am audacious, passionate, and loyal, a soul alchemist, a deliverer, and a leader who heals, loves, and believes.
This is beautiful.
That's what do you know? And I remember looking at it thinking, I don't identify with any of that.
But you had to grow into this.
My soul identified it. And so when I look at who I am today, and audacious was one of them. Like I remember I couldn't fill that in for a long time. But the soul DNA container teaches you how to write that. There's a method to it, and there's a reason why you write it. And it's 100%. It's 100%.
I love it. It's beautiful.
Thanks.
So how can we meet this great audacious person of you online? Where you hang out? Tell us.
So my website, www.laurinmariani.com. Everything to know about me is on there. Perfect. Equally on Facebook, Laurin Mariani is there. There is Discover Your Soul DNA. That is tons of short tutorials, tons of short videos and what have you about who I am, why I am the way I am, and how I show up. And so anywhere on their Instagram, there's a handle as well. I think it's Mariani. Laurin is on my Instagram handle. And then I recently started, I love having coffee or tea or hot chocolate, but I recently started doing coffee conversations twice a month. And that's where we discuss really deep stuff about where we're at. I think September's got some incredible content in it. They've all got, October's got some incredible content. The collision between chaos and our soul contract. There's incredible stuff.
Okay, where are you hosting those coffee conversations?
We send it via link, so it's a little bit more intimate for that, because there's some deeper stuff, and people always, feel a bit much when it's shown to the world, but within our lives, we discuss similar things within our lives online. And I have no issue sharing any of it or anything like that. That is part of authenticity. If I don't want to, you'll get a straight no.
Yeah, exactly. It's still up to you what you're up sharing with us and what you're not.
Yeah.
I have one final question, and I'm sure you will share this answer with me. What book are you currently reading?
I am reading I don't even know what it's written by. It's by the author, the founder of Nike. Shoe Dog. That's it.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Is it good? Can you recommend it so far?
Absolutely. It like messes with my head a little bit.
Oh, okay. Then it's going on my pile. Then it's going on my pile.
It is. It's about where passion. I think for me, it's about how strong is your passion. Like that comes through. Like we look at Nike and a pair of Takis and be like, he just had it easy. And when you look at it, you're like, oh wow, that's a story. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's going definitely on my pile.
Yeah,
Laurin,
absolutely.
thank you so much for being on the Scenic Route with me. We started off strong, just because you can doesn't mean you have to, which is amen. And we had so many good nuggets. It feels like therapy session, and I need to I need now some time to readjust myself and regulate myself, because there were so many good pieces and my mind is connecting all the dots. It was really inspiring talking to you. Thank you so much, Laurin.
Thank you so much for having me, Jennifer.